What's happening, Kyle Postlewaite, aka Malcare here at Big Kitty Games. Let's see, I was going to give a little spiel about yesterday. I got kind of sick yesterday morning. I was up from like 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. The stomach ache. You don't want to hear about that, though. I've been really struggling to decide if I should dive into this or not, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. So, here we go. I'm going to switch back to noise-based biomes. Let's do a quick little version control push here, actually. And let's see. This is a big one. Bug I fixed in the network proximity checker. I'd like to get that live as soon as possible. But this is going to cause not a world reset, but we're going to have to reposition buildings at least, which is something the game is capable of. So it's all right. It is a little bit of a bummer, but I'd like to run some things. So I would like to get this patched in. Probably not going to, well, I mean, we can get it patched into beta next week, but it's probably going to need some debugging. So probably not, probably the week after next that this will be able to go live. But anyway, let's see. Working on map, UI. It's basically all that is. So we've got a safe return point. Now, currently, really all we need to do is override these two functions. Get the chunk biome map and get the terrain biome map. I gotta move the mic up so I'm not leaning down into it. Let's put our fancy goggles on too. That is really all I need to do, to be honest. So let's get to it. My water's done boiling. I'd like to make some coffee, but I got a cat on my lap, so I'll be patient. So the current system is gathering data from all of the 8 neighbors, determining what biome they are, figuring out how to blend the current point, generating a biome strength and a height. Now what I'm going to do instead is have a 2D noise function let's say just, something like this. And then I'm going to have ocean be in the middle. I'm going to have desert be up here. We're going to have grass be up here. We're going to have, it'll go like kind of like this kind of stuff. Mountain up here. And swamp down here. So we've got our Y and our X. And all we have to do is get our X and our Y noise values, and then we can find a position on this chart. That will give us our biome. Now, the only question remaining is, the height map itself. Now, currently the way that I'm storing this data is with this jagged array of vector 2's, which means it's got an XY value in it. I'm using that to store. It's actually written more nicely down here. Went too far. Strength and height. Here I've actually got all of the biomes and then a jagged array. How come I don't have that in the chunks? Oh, it's a dictionary. That's a little silly, but no big deal. We'll fix that too. So basically I'm going to be rewriting this whole thing. Let's just copy it, comment it out for now, paste it, and let's go ahead and fix that. So this is going to be a vector 2 array of jagged arrays. So I don't want that dictionary anymore. And this is going to be 5 for our 5 biomes. And we actually do this down here nicely, where we reload, we go through it, and make sure that they're all set up to be something in them. This will only initialize the first step of the array there. Let me just ping the Discord. No, we're not going to be doing any of this. None of that. So, first of all, we're going to want to, I guess, We're going to want to determine the biome. Let's see. Determine primary plus secondary biome. Do we care about the actual strength? I suppose we do, as we're going to want to blend between them. I think we'll only ever have a primary and a secondary. And so the question arises when stuff gets into these corners, where there actually could be 3. But yeah, I think we'll be fine with just a primary and a secondary biome. Determine primary, secondary biome, and their strengths. I guess really that's all that we want. Determine primary and secondary biome strengths. So basically that's going to be 2 biomes and strengths. I suppose that could be a vector 2. It'd be better if we had a integer and a float. This is just orange juice. Not nearly as amazing as coffee. It's very good for you though. Cat, you were warming me up nice, and yeah, I'll let you sit for a minute. She's cute. So we want to determine the primary, secondary biome strengths, and then we need to determine the height. Let's see, height. what's the word I'm looking for? The total, how about like final height, by combining two height checks from each biome. Really a height check from each biome. So, to determine our primary, secondary biome strengths, should we just make a little class, a little helper class to do that with? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's say public, and am I going to be using this elsewhere? I don't think so. Public class, we'll call it biome strength equals, you know, and I could just do an int2, because integers can go up to 23 billion or something like that. And we don't need biome strength to be decimal down 7 digits or anything like that. Yeah, I suppose I'll just do that rather than trying to make a new class for it. So let's say we've got an int2 array, and this is just two integers, just a class that I made. I think there is actually a C# class that has that. It's called something very similar, but anyway, it's one that I wrote. So we're going to just do an int2 array. It's just going to be too big. We'll call it biome strengths. It's just going to be two of them. And I was thinking of calling a function to generate that. But let's just set it up in here for now. We can move it off to its own method if we need it, and if we need to later. Biome strength. So basically, we want to be calling some noise. This is our noise manager class, within which we do have a noise set up. So I don't think I have. I do have some helper stuff set up here. XZ, frequency, amplitude, persistence, octaves. Good. That's good. Yeah, I'll make use of that. This is using simplex. Okay, so we can just call get noise. And then what's really important is just these XZ values. So we don't want them to be the same, which means we can just offset one of them. So first of all, what we're trying to do is just determine the biomes and their strength. So well, let's see. It's going to give me a float, right? Let's say biome 1 for now, equals get noise, and that is a float. So we're going to do, I'm just going to pass the noise into it that's already part of this class. I guess we're going to want to be doing this per XZ, aren't we? So this is actually going to be within our loop. So this is all the old stuff I'm not going to be doing anymore. Total priority, add noises. I'll leave that in for just a minute. It's going to be all different, but... And let's see, world X and local X. We don't need the local X for anything. This is chunk X, right. So this is what we want. That we don't need. This is what we're doing. Okay. Biome 1, get noise, noise. Where's my phone? I keep leaving my phone somewhere every morning. Biome 1 equals get noise, noise. So now we've got our world X, our world Z, and let's say frequency. This is going to need to be different for chunks and terrains. Chunks are 1/16 the size of terrains, but for now, I'm not even sure. Let's just say, who was calling you in the past? Let's see who was. What kind of frequencies were we passing into this? Nobody? Was nobody using you? Oh, there it is. Biome 1 noise frequency. Alright, so for example, there we go. Temp, biome. Who actually set up the frequency? I don't see where that's being set. Hold on. Biome 1 noise frequency is 0.2. I made these scriptable objects, huh? Yeah, I always had this kind of idea that I was going to make hundreds of biomes somehow. And it's really just not going to happen. It's a cool thought, but you know, I programmed so much of this to try and be malleable, to accept that at some day in the future somehow, some way, but it's really just not coming together, and it's causing problems being so unrigid. So we're taking the leap here. We'll just say, oops, my numlock's off. 0.2 for now. Amplitude. Again, I guess I should look at all of those. Amplitude of 1, persistence 0.5, octaves 4. Changing the octaves has a very big impact on how much time it takes to do all of this, since we're doing it 65,000 times per chunk. 256 times 256. That's a lot. But 1, 0.5, and 4 is what we're at for the moment. And then basically biome 2 is just going to be the same thing, but offset by, let's see. So this is going to be 256, even for chunks, right? Yeah. So let's just, you know, it doesn't really matter, but let's say plus 8,600, and then we'll do plus 4,800. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's constant, so they're grabbing different noises. Party-chan, what are you doing? Party-chan, quit sticking your feet in the printer. You bored, kitty? Go look at the birds. Biome 1 and you too, kitty. Sorry, I need the keyboard. Too many cats. So now we've got, this is just going to give us our sample XY on our this here. Now we need to convert that into these different actual biomes. So biome strengths number 0 dot x. So this is going to be our actual biome. So we're going to want to do a get biome thing, but currently this guy is set up to figure out based on our chunks. It's not what we want. I'm going to move him down to the bottom as well. Not this far down, but somewhere around here. We're going to be getting rid of most of this. So we want to do, we're going to feed in a float x and a float y. And we're going to evaluate something along these lines. But how do we do that? I don't actually know how to do that. Hi, kitty. I guess we can set up a series of logical steps. What are you doing? You bored? You bored, kitty? I'm at work. Sorry, kitty. Is that enough? So let's just say if we've got our x, we've got our y. If it's kind of going to butt heads though. I guess we can just do, like, what if we first determine which quadrant we're in, and then we do a second method to check how deep into the ocean we are, if we need to override that or not. That would work. So let's say we've got a blend range of blend biomes over 0. It was 0.5 in the past, so we'll go ahead and go with that. So let's say if x equals less than 0.5 would be right in the middle. It's going to get a little complicated. Else, so here we're going to have, let's see, let's call this mountain, let's call this swamp, this is grass, this is desert. Is that, yeah, we want a desert and swamp opposite. So, grass is never going to blend into biome though, is it? The desert's going to go right up into mountain. Yeah, I mean, we can switch all of this easy once we get it all set up. So, x is less than 5 is going to be mountain swamp. And this is going to be desert grass. And then we're going to do if y equals less than 0.5. And this is going to be, if we're already in the mountain swamp area, we're going to be swamp. Oops. Ohayo. And this is going to be mountain. いつの予定だった? あ、そうなの。 So this is now going to be grass and swamp. Or, sorry, desert. Desert on top. Now we just want to know if we need to blend them a little bit or not. So, and we don't want just a biome. We want the strength actually as well, don't we? Yeah, I want an actual whole integer 2 to come back with this. Oh, Kitty's back. What are you doing? Life wasn't interesting enough for you? Hmm? What are you doing? Go play with Echo. Hmm? Yeah. Feeding in our XY position. We're going to return. Basically, it's going to end up like this. And we have an explanation for this right here. Ocean, Badlands. So if we want swamp, we want number 4. And our strength is going to be basically 1 in normal cases, and that's an integer. Okay, so yeah, no. Let's see, how do we want to do that? 1,000? Is that enough? I think that's probably fine. So we'll say 1,000. Just keep it as an integer for this use case. But actually, if we are less than 0.5, but we are greater than 0.45, that means we're within our 0.05 blend range. We want to not be full strength. So this is full strength here. If we're not full strength, we want to be, let's see, we just want the difference. (0.5 minus 0.45), that'll be our difference. Up to a maximum of 0.05, right? So 0.05 divided by whatever that is, times 1,000. And we're going to want to math function round to int that probably in its entirety. We can make this float as well. Sun just went behind a cloud, I guess. There it comes again. Hope it warms up the dam in a t-shirt. A little chilly, to be honest. Let's see if this makes sense, though. So if we're at, yeah, you can't just do this. We need to do this. It needs to be the y. Minus y. There we go. So if we are at 0.5 currently, that's going to come out to 0. So 0.05 divided by 0 is going to be 0. And times 1,000, we're going to get 0. So if we're right on the border, I guess that's actually where we want to be at 50%, isn't it? So we want to do times 500, and then we'll do plus 500. So we'll be at 0 right on the border, and then we'll add 500 to that, so we will be right at 50% blend right on those edges. And we'll add noise to that in a bit. So if we were at 0.5 minus 0.45, we would be at that. So we'd be at 1 times 500 plus 500 would be our complete 1000. Okay, so that looks good. I have to double check my math because I'm not very good at it. So, full strength or not full strength is basically how that's always going to be. In this case, we're going upward, so we want to say less than 5.5. And mountain is going to be number 3. Wife has turned the TV on. Math's going to be a little bit different here, I believe. Y equals less than, so now we're going to be doing, let's see. So we know we're somewhere between 5 and 5.5. But we want to be blending in the opposite direction, right? So I think we need to do a math function abs for this guy, because we're going to be doing 0.5 minus 0.55, which is going to give us a negative, but then that's going to come out as a 1. Yeah, so that should be good. As we move upwards, we'll move towards 500, and then we'll add 500 to get 1,000. I think that sounds good. Okay, now we just need to copy this to our other guys. And grass is number 2. And swamp is number 4. We're looking at desert though. Desert is number 1. We're only blending between the Y's though right now. Let's see, what's going on here? X. I guess we can't fully return there just yet, can we? So we wrote functions to cover this line. Now we need to cover this axis. So let's see. If I guess kind of really what we can say here, if x equals less than 0.45, else if x equals greater than 0.55, then we know we're safe to just go straight into these guys, because we're not blending in the middle. What, again though, I guess there should never be 3, except for these points. So we should be able to say what if we do else if we're going to need some sine cosine stuff here, I think. Which I'm always bad at. I can remember that stuff. I'm trying to think if we're yay distance from the center, then we know we don't need to worry about blending these guys because we're going to be in the ocean. So, distance from center. I haven't had my coffee yet. I better make my coffee, to be honest. I'll be right back. I think I showed these off once in the past, didn't I? Just this little single serving of coffee pouch thing. You just pour the hot water in there. It's just got, you know, like a tablespoon's worth of ground coffee in there. Seven. I'll get the brain juices flowing. That's why I hate getting into this stuff, because I'm not good at math. I'm not bad at math. I'm just not good at math. So, how to tell how close to the center we are? Using our XY. Yeah, that's like reverse sine, cosine, isn't it? Determine distance from center with XY. Most people want to do the opposite. How can you find the distance between the center? There's tons of stuff on this. But I mean, we know our center point, right? We really only need to... It's just a squared plus b squared, right? Square root of a squared plus b squared. Am I wrong on that? I think that's actually what I want. Yeah, people just get really complicated on stack exchange and stuff trying to answer these questions. Yeah. I shouldn't be doing this on stream. I'm making a fool of myself. Let's say, distance from center equals I wonder if I can do like float center x equals let's do x minus 0.5 f like this. So we'll offset it basically, and then square root of, let's see, power, this is basically squaring, center x to the power of 2 plus center z to the power of 2. That should give us, let's see, if we're over here, we're going to subtract 0.5, which is going to leave us here, and then we're going to subtract 0.5, which is going to put us over here. And that should give us our distance from this point, basically. Like we're pretending that this is the center by offsetting everything down negative 0.5. I think that works fine. Yeah, that should work. So anyway, that's our distance from the center. So I think we're going to need that in any case. Let's put it up here. And we'll do else if distance from center equals less than, how far out is this going to go? 0.5? Probably a little more than 0.5. Let's say 0.6. Well, let's see, this is 0.25, right? So let's say 0.3. So this is going to be ocean. And let's actually just not even worry about blending for a moment and see if we can't just write up something to show that we're getting this right at all, you know? Just give ourselves a little test to see what we're making. It would be nice to, let's see. Can I set up a little helper class just to draw this for us so we can look at it? Hi kitty, you're just bored, aren't you? You got nothing to do today? Just sit on my lap. Is the weather too nice? You want to go outside or something? What's the matter? There's no new. Usually gives me a new there. To go up here. Add. New item. Model behavior. 아까 뭐 쫓더라겠지 적색으로. 유튜브요? 유튜브? 아리가또. どっか行っちゃうの？携帯見てたやろ。 Let's see, I actually have, let's see, where we go, compression helper. No, that's not it. Editor compress. Write a little custom editor script here, and we put it in these brackets so that it doesn't break compilation. If anything tries to compile editor scripting without being specifically marked as a part of the editor, it breaks because you're not allowed to do this in the standalone player. Let's say GUI button redraw. I think that's all we need, and then we need a public void redraw, and now in here we can do, let's say, serialize field. We'll give it a texture 2D. And let's see if texture, it's hard to type with a kitty on your lap. If texture does not equal null, I want to destroy it. This could lead to memory leaks if I don't. And again, this isn't going to be in the game at all. This is just for testing. And then we're going to make a new one. Texture equals new, texture 2D. I don't think any of the format stuff matters, but let's go 256 by 256. And then we're going to go for int, well, let's see. First we want to do, so the noise manager is not a mono behavior. Very good. We do need to do a setup though. Procedural biomes, we can pass null to that. Biomes clear, procedural biomes. Is this actually being used? There is something down here using this, huh? Oh, that's the, yeah. Well, that's not a big deal. Let's just do, we're going to be churning all of that stuff off once this is working. So let's just do a setup 2, and we don't need any of that. We don't need that either. Let's actually give it an int seed, and we'll say, go ahead and use that for your noise seed. And we're going to go ahead and do noise manager. Noise manager equals new noise manager, which we can do because it's not a mono behavior, it's just a class. we're then going to do setup 2, and we're going to feed it, you know, whatever. And then we can do our get biome method that we're building out. Get chunk biome map. Wonder if there's still not a better way to do this. Store this is what I mean. Vector 2 array jagged array biome map equals get chunk biome map. Yeah, it doesn't actually know how to handle this extra stuff that we haven't finished setting up yet. This is just XY. It's world X, world Z. This is going to be our int 2. I guess we need to finish setting this up a little, huh? So we're trying to get maybe we should be determining all of the biomes. Better have a sip of coffee. Since pretty much everything is yeah, we need to know the biome strengths for blending. We don't want terrain textures to just 100% cut. I mean, it's not that terrible, honestly, if it does. You know, if there's just a straight line, and then it's on one side it's desert, on the other side it's just mountain. There's no blending. It does look better when it blends. If it doesn't blend, then we can just say, you know, what's the biome at this point? And that's it. We don't have to have any strengths or anything like that. There's no blending. Let's just do that for the moment. Take a peek at it. See what happens. So we don't need any of this in that case. We're just going to do Solace Crafting Biome. Get biome. We're not going to use this. We're going to change this to be 0.5. We're not going to use this. Oops. Or this. Or this. Or this. We do still need to do... This actually needs to go first, doesn't it? In that case. So... we do want this stuff. If distance from center is less than 0.3, we want to return ocean. Otherwise, we want to return swamp. Otherwise, we want to return mountain. Otherwise, we want to return grass. And we don't actually want this to even be an if. It's just an else. I didn't add a semicolon there. So else, that means it will always hit something. And in this case, it will be, I believe it's called Badlands. There we go. So we'll always get something returned based on what we put in there. Okay. Something messed up down here. Am I missing I got one too many? I guess I had one too many in there. Oh, what's this else doing here? Oh, there we go. We were missing that. Sorry. There we go. Else, if, else. Good. Okay. No errors in the script. So, we're going to go through each point. We're going to grab an XY position on our temperature map. And then we're going to, let's see, we don't need our strength. We just need a biome. So this isn't actually going to give us our height is the problem. Could make it an int2 and store the height with it, which is basically what we were doing with the vector2. And that's fine, I guess. So the int2, I'm not going to be passing this stuff into it or that right now. We'll get back to that later. Int2 jagged array equals new 257, 257. So we don't need to do this either. We do need to feed in our chunk x int chunk z. And now we'll do chunk biome map x z equals like so. And we just want an int2, right? We were hoping, my volume is cranked up. We were hoping to use this though. Get biome, not get, are they both the same? There's a float x, float y. That's true. We wanted biome 1, biome 2. Like so. World x, world z are being used here. That's going to give us the biome. Let's go ahead and just do a fake noise for now, or a fake height. We'll just say 850. And I guess this is going to be just cast as an int for the moment. So this should be working. Now our little tester is going to Noise manager, get chunk, biome map. Doesn't matter. Let's just say 0, 0. And this is now an int2 array, jagged array. So now we've got biomes. So let's do for int x equals 0, as long as x equals less than 256 x plus plus. We're going to loop through the data that we get from that. It's going to be z. And we are going to texture dot, let's see, this is easily viewed in procedural terrain. Let's go ahead and copy that. And basically a color array that you feed into it with set pixels. Okay. So this is x, let's just copy it. Basically every z step you take, is it z first? Z then x, huh? So every z step you take, you add a row. I guess it draws like this. We're not going backwards or anything, are we? Plus, 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 okay. And then whatever x you're dealing with. And this is going to equal, so given the data that we've got from our biome map now, let's see, I guess basically we want to do if, I guess we'll get the biome map first, int2 here equals biome map at xz, and if here dot x is equal to 0, we're going to set this to be a new color. Actually, let's just go color dot blue. So our other colors are going to be like this. And I just deleted them, but you know, whatever. That's the whole reason I brought those over. Badlands, grass, mountain, swamp. Badlands, mountains, there's no brown. What do we got? just do gray. We'll do red. Badlands, mountain, grass, swamp. This can be green, and this can be, let's say, cyan. How about? Doesn't really matter. We're just trying to see that it is, in fact, changing. So, we've now got our color array, and then we want to do texture.setPixels using 0, 0. What's the other one? Color? No, set pixels, sorry. Set pixels using our colors array. And then I believe we have to seal it. Set pixel, apply, there we go. I think is what we need. Texture.apply. And since this is serialized, we should be able to see that. So we're going to get a redraw button. We're going to be able to click on it, and we're going to be able to look at it. And I can just do this anywhere without actually loading the game, is the whole point of writing that. So we can just test and see. Oh, we got a problem though. Procedural chunk to int, procedural chunk. Right. Okay, for the moment, let's go ahead and rename this to number 2. And we'll turn this one back on just so that other scripts that are currently making use of it don't complain. And noise tester is going to be calling number 2. That should be fine. I got a Big Kitty Games shirt on. I got a Big Kitty Games cup I'm drinking from. Feeling it today. So let's see. I can just make an empty object. I'll move to 0 just because I have OCD. Not really, but we all like to say that. And then I'm going to add noise tester to it. And we don't have a texture now, but if I click redraw, we should get one. And I can look at it right here. And we can see it's going super crazy. So this is a chunk. This is our biomes. So we need to turn our frequency, let's see, down. Let's turn it down to 10%, or yeah, on both of these. I kind of want to go like this even, just so that those are lined up nicely and I can see them. It would be nice to move this into a different project so compiled faster, because Solace Crafting is so big. It does take a minute, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so here's what we're getting. Still too small and a lot of yellow. Way too much yellow. So what is our yellow? Let's do ocean. Yellow was mountain. No, this is mountain, right? One is Badlands, mountain, grass, Badlands, grass, mountain, swamp. This is supposed to be grass, huh? Mountain, swamp. So I got those a little mixed up, actually. Let's do, yeah, that's good for you. Let's do you as green, though, and you as red. Okay. Right? Ocean, Badland, grass, mountain, swamp. Ocean, Badland, grass, mountain, swamp. Okay. Too much desert. So let's look at what is actually generating that up here. And I'm just going to get rid of this for now because it's unsightly. And it's all based on the get biome, this guy here. So in order to get to the Badlands, that's our else and our else. Okay. So if Distance from center, I think, don't have enough ocean, do we? Let's turn that up just a little bit. And if x is less than 0.5, otherwise, which means we're going above 0.5. If our y is less than 0.5, which means else above 0.5. Should only be 25% chance to get yellow, right? Get noise. Let's double check this. We're going to get simplex. We're going to multiply it by our amplitude. If it's the amplitude that's causing that. Both of the numbers are leaning heavily towards 0, right? Oh, no, they're leaning towards 1 up here. Huh. And then this gives us a minus 1 to positive 1 range, so we add plus 1 to it to bring it to 0 to 2, and then we divide it by 2 to bring it down to 0 to 1. So we should only ever be getting 0 to 1. Let's recompile and try that again. There's a lot of yellow in there, though. Wonder why. It is random noise. You know what we can actually do is set this seed to be random. Let's do random range of, we'll say 0 to 99999. That'll give us a different one each time. Normally that it would be the world seed that's get fed into that. Yeah, a lot of yellow though, huh? That's certainly not what we want. Actually, it wouldn't look bad if that was the ocean. You'd have to have a boat to get around for sure, though. Still too small in any case, but not a big deal. We're just kind of trying to get the colors right first. Let me double check that. That's 2, 3, 4, 9, and 1. Okay, so this is wrong, actually. I thought ocean was 0. Get biome int. I guess we need to actually be forcefully converting that. I did not think that that was the case. So when we do get biome, I don't actually want this to be like that. I'd rather it just be an int. And in the case of ocean, let's just go 0. For whatever reason. Badlands is number 1, right? Badlands, grass, mountain, swamp. Badlands, grasslands, mountain, and swamp. So it was actually finding a bunch of stuff that it didn't know how to deal with. We even had black in there. I guess I should have noticed that. So anyway, this will set that up there. Now I don't need to cast these as an int anymore. Right here. Yeah, black means it doesn't know what's going on, and then this yellow is everything it didn't understand. So that's actually ocean and desert combined, I think. There we go. So okay, I turned the ocean up a little bit too much, huh? 0.3 was probably a pretty good number. Let's try that once more. So we're not getting any blending. We're getting immediate change. Here we'd see desert with some grasslands and a big island. Still maybe a bit too much ocean. I honestly kind of like it when you get these island pockets, you know? And I'll make this all editable. This is kind of a problem with the current chunk-based system too, that you don't really get very much control over it. This will give us that control back so people can actually set this number. I'm just setting it manually right now, but we'll have a slider for all of these so that you can create a world that has a lot more mountain than it does desert, if that's what you want. You know, sometimes having a water world is a lot of fun. Again, definitely would be fun to get some different boats in too at some point. So yeah, that looks a lot better. Big swamp, bit of mountain around it. Over here we've got lots of deserts and grasslands blending together. Yeah, I think this is pretty cool. Definitely still too big. Let's try and get that a little closer to what we want. 0.1 would be double. Let's try... this is a this is an 8 kilometer chunk. 8 by 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to the middle. So that's like a kilometer of swamp right there. Maybe still a little too much ocean, huh? Yeah, I think there is still too much ocean. Let's turn that down and let's just go ahead and do double for now. And ocean is going to be... You can see the benefit of writing little tools like this. Am I pushing the ocean in the wrong direction? What's going on here? Well, it's harder to tell because I shrunk this back down. I think 0.1 is a pretty good value. That is a massive swamp. But that's important for some of these mountains to reach full size and things like that. And that's why blending is actually important too. Because if you blend height from swamp to mountain, it just goes whoop, and you get this cliff. Yeah, I just want to take another look with the frequency churned back down a little bit. Make sure ocean is indeed getting smaller as I'm expecting it to as I decrease that number. So it kind of still looks like a little too much ocean. It's not bad though. And that's true that given the way that noise works, these the middle is actually more frequent than the edges. So let's go ahead and turn it down even a little more. I think 1.5 is going to be too much, but let's take a look at it and see. We're not getting any bridging between swamp and grass. You know, we're doing like this, but and this, but not this kind of stuff. It's kind of confusing me. See how it's only yellow and green together, and then only red and cyan together. That shouldn't be the case though. It's honestly not terrible. So mountain and swamp blend together. I mean, you know, having these islands and like these water channels and stuff makes really pretty landscapes, to be honest. I'm kind of confused a little bit. See, that looks pretty natural. That would look really nice. Big hunk of mountains, some deserts and grasslands spread out, big chunk of swamp there with water all around it. It would look really pretty. I'm just a little confused. No doubt this is our problem here. Oh, well, look at that. There's an error right there. Let's see what, I guess that's a Y, huh? Let's see what that looks like fixed. But honestly, this is a pretty nice effect, to be honest. It's not the math that we were trying to write, but sometimes, you know, serendipity knocks. That actually looks really not bad. So now we can see that all four of them are blending together. And as expected, the ocean is a little bit too low now, I think. I'm actually gonna let's go ahead and make that a setting. I'm gonna write that down because that was really interesting. Let's say user setting how do you spell that? Archipelago. True. Oops. So this would be normal, and we would leave this as the X like that, how it was. And this is going to be, let's see, no, yeah, we need to move this. Actually, let's just not even bother with an else. Let's put this as false. And I'm just going to comment it out for the moment. Just because I kind of like that. But anyway. So if it's false, this will use the Y. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the archipelago. Archipelago. Is that how you say that? Islandy. For the more sophisticated of us. You might want to turn the water up a little bit too. Isn't that fun though? I really like that. You have to move between the islands a little bit. Make a boat every once in a while. I think that's a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and not put that as our default though. And let's turn the water back up to something like this. See how that looks. And if all is well, we'll turn the frequency back down 50%. And see if we can't actually get a world generated. Oh, yeah, that's a little too much for an ocean, isn't it? All right, 0.2. That's like a 3-kilometer chunk there, so when I turn it down 50%, that'd be a 6-kilometer chunk of ocean. That's a little much. Still quite a bit. I do really love these little islands, though. It's the beauty of noise. Let's go with something like 175. And again, this will be adjustable, but I want to set a good default, you know. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So, we've got our biome map. Now we need to move on to... We better do a little bit of blending, huh? Because if we don't blend, those height maps are just going to get out of control. So, I'd almost like to move this to a new class, to be honest, because there's a lot of stuff in here we're going to delete, but we'll clean it up when we get there. So, it is currently just giving us a biome, a single biome, and a height map. What we need, though, is a strength and height map per biome. That's why we were using the vector 2, and we had the jagged array. Honestly, that does work best, doesn't it? Trying to just think if there isn't a simpler way to go about that, but there really isn't if we want to blend, and we do want to blend. So not doing it here, but we are doing it here. There's 5 biomes, each with 257 steps. So I'm doing 5 sets of 655,000. I'm trying to think if I do, or not 650, 65,000, because 257 times 257 is something like that, 70,000. and we've got 5 biomes. So it's basically 5 times 70,000 is all of the data that we're generating with this, which is a lot of data. So is there a way that we can, say we've got 70,000 variables that are actually a vector 3? Or what if they're an int 2? We don't actually ever save this data, so I don't mind it being a float. You definitely want to convert stuff to integers if you're writing to disk, using JSON the way that I do, because it actually writes out the full decimal value, so it'll write 1.000000 for a 1. And when you've got 70,000, 150,000 ones, all those zeros take up a lot more space on disk than just a 1. You know, it like extremely multiplies it. But I'm not actually writing this out to disk, and I think this would actually work a lot better, wouldn't it? So our first vector is going to be, well, I don't like having to round that is all. No, and that wouldn't work either. I guess the only other way you could do it is if you did 70,000 and then a 5 after that, but it would still add up to the same amount. So yeah, I don't think there's any way to avoid this any further than what I've got going on. Unless you generated the height map totally separate. Which is possible. Currently the vector 2 is our strength and our height. What's important is the strength for the blending that we're talking about. Maybe we shouldn't be forcing these together. Maybe we should have just a float here for all of our strengths, and then we can actually generate the height map separate. I don't think we would gain performance. Yeah. Like if we generated something like this, that would cut down on the data we need to generate a fair amount. A factor of 5 times 70,000 floats. So this would be our chunk biome strengths, and this would be our chunk biome heights. Thank you, Art. We had our, my wife and I had our 7th year anniversary here just a couple days ago. And we could generate these 2 sets of data within the same loop. The height is dependent on the strengths. You have to use the strengths in order to generate the heights. Could I do that within the loop if we generate the strengths and then I pass those to a generator to generate the heights? Yeah, that wouldn't be difficult. The only thing is then we would have to be passing these back as two separate data sets. So we'd want to set up a class to hold both of these. If I made them in separate methods, let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to think who uses this data. So it's going to be the map, it's going to be the terrains, and that's it really. The map needs to know strengths. You haven't seen yet, Art, what I've been working on. I built a new noise generator. So this is actually, I think we turned it down a bit rather than I still haven't turned it down, have I? No, I didn't. This is supposed to be 0.1, but we built a biome generator. There's just too many problems going on that are all related to this convoluted system that I built with the 8-kilometer chunk circles and all of that. I'm just trying to think if there's more ways for me to improve the performance a bit. So if we've got the map needs the strength, the map also needs the heights. Because just because there is, mountain or ocean in a specific point, or like the swamp, sometimes the swamp goes underwater. We like to draw that on the map, not just say, there's the swamp. Not the drawing board completely, honestly. I tried to make it a lot more difficult than it needs to be, because I always kind of had this dream of having like 1,000 procedural biomes somehow, some way, in some magical future. And I just really don't think that that's going to happen. And so I built the system to be super malleable and maybe someday in the future have all these extra options available to it. But by adding all of that extra stuff onto it, it's actually causing a lot of problems. And, you've got your bald areas in the world that it shouldn't be that complicated. So really we're just grabbing noise, we're generating strengths and heights based on the noise, and that's all you need to do. It's supposed to not be a very difficult system, but so I'm kind of trying to move it back in that direction. I think we should be able to more or less finish it today. It's not going to be terrible. I'm just kind of stuck on thinking a little bit about performance here. Code architecture they call it. Diving into this, so the only thing that actually makes use of either of these data is the map and the terrains themselves. And in both cases, they need to know the strengths of the biomes as well as the height. So there's really no point in decoupling these, but it would require less data generation, less memory, if I did separate the data sets. Currently water is static. It's at 801 meters, I think. So the world zero is actually not sea level. It's at 0. And then the sea level is 801. And then there's just always water beneath that. So the swamp kind of swims above and below that peak, and everything else goes above it. The ocean goes below it. But is there any actual benefit to... there's definitely a little bit less memory usage. It's a fair amount of memory, to be honest. But, strengths and heights. Should they be separated? That would be easier, honestly. And I think it should be like this, to be honest. That would just make things a little bit simpler. Alright, well let's move forward with this. So we're going to need just a little class, public, and we're actually going to want this to be global. So we're going to want to float to these jagged arrays. Let's say public class biome data holder and you're just going to be basically public float jagged array called strengths. I'm not going to initialize it actually, I'm just going to leave it null by default. And we're going to have another one that's just the jagged array called heights. Now, well, I mean, I can kind of calculate it in my head, because, you know, a float is a 32-bit integer, or, you know, variable, and that's basically 4 bytes. So if we're talking about 257 times 250, well no, it's 256, isn't it? It's 0 to 256 for some of it. So 66,000 times 4, it's like 264 kilobytes. So, you know, it's not even a megabyte. It's not a big deal, honestly. But generating the arrays, prepping the arrays, and it's not important. You know, it's not a big deal. Yeah. Screw it. I'm just gonna stick with it. It's not gonna be anything noticeable. That's not the reason that this takes any time. And again, you know, if this is 5 and then this is 66,000, so we've got 5 times 66,000. And you could do it like this, so you've got 66,000 times 5, but, you know, it's the same thing, really. It doesn't matter. It's not important. Let's just keep going. So, we're already generating this, well, we're currently not blending the strengths. So, chunk biome map, let's see, we're going to need to go and grab each, or do we want to feed it? Do we feed it the chunk biome map and then it populates it? Or do we want to request per biome how much? Yeah, I think we should feed it. Not the whole array, but let's say we get well, in that case it would make more sense to have this behind it, wouldn't it? Yeah, I know what you mean, Art. I'm self-taught, so, you know, people that went to school for 6 years to get a master's degree in programming, they look at my code and they're like, that's all, you can't do that. Oh, that's wrong. You know, and it's like, it works, man. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the problem? Best practice, because I like the way that it reads, is really how a lot of that boils down to. This is how I was taught how to do it, so that's why it's best practice. You know, some stuff it's like, well, you're actually using too much performance because you're not doing this correctly. And in that case, you know, it's like, oh, I didn't know that, thank you very much. But when people really nag on you for just the way that you write something, just because...どうしたの? 気にするよ、それ。顔見せようじゃん。顔見せればいいじゃん。どっか行けようじゃん。Wife's messing with me, but is afraid to show her face. いいよ。You're just bored, aren't you? 君暇だな。Anyway, yeah, this would work a little better if I go in this direction, wouldn't it? Right? So now I'm not actually going to be preloading that. No. This is now going to be 257. And yeah. Hi, BB. She has the day off and doesn't know what to do with herself, apparently. When I get to this point now, I'm going to want to equals new vector 2 like this, and so we're not doing well. Yeah, blending is actually pretty important. So we're going to go ahead and blend properly. And this is going to be, I guess we don't need to do it here. We'll just have this guy generate it for us. So our get biome, yeah, we're not going to do that actually. We're just going to feed it an X and a Z, and it's now going to feed us back a vector2 array. So, and I didn't show this to Art yet. I kind of would like to, but it's too late now. I changed everything. I accidentally had this set as X, so it was X and X instead of X and Y, and it ended up making this really cool archipelago, if I'm pronouncing that right, effect. So not these continents with water in between them. It was everything was divided by water. There were all these big islands, but 100% had water around them. So you always had to get on a boat to get over to the next place. It actually looked really cool. So I'm going to add a setting for that, so we can check that out later, because it was really nice looking, but I know some people probably don't want the water interfering with everything. But anyway, I'll show you that later. So we need to be calculating all of our biomes now. So we want a vector2 array called biomes equals new. I hate it when IntelliSense doesn't select that for me. This is 5 big, and let's see. Yeah, and we'll definitely have a land to water ratio, and we kind of had to get rid of some of those settings because of the way that I sort of tried to force stuff to be possibly infinite in the future. But moving back to noise-based, this will let us adjust all of these numbers in the settings. So players can make more mountains if they want, or more ocean if they want, or a bigger starting area if they want, and all of that stuff again. So we're now going to be wanting to go through and populate. Yeah, they're all going to be 0 by default, set up here. Actually, I'm not positive that they are. New vector2 array. And this doesn't cost any performance. Let's go ahead and go through it. Int I equals 0, I equals less than 5, I plus plus. We'll just go through and do biomes I equals new vector2. I'm not positive that's necessary. Let's go ahead and do a debug log right here, just so we can test this out next time we get this running. Biomes, we'll say 0.x. So if it's unable to, well, and if it's null, it'll say null. If I do to string, it'll give me it should just say 0, 0 there. Anyway. It's not set in stone. This one is set to a frequency, like this would be an 8-kilometer chunk that we're looking at here. And this is actually zoomed out 50% from what I'm planning to set as the default. So this would be twice as big as it is now. So you can kind of say like this is what a 16 by 16 chunk will look like. And then yellow was desert, red was mountain, and blue was swamp, and green was grass, and some things. But it'll all be, it's really just these numbers right here. So we're doing 50%, 50%, 50%, and then ocean has in the middle here of the noise map, which is where this is actually much more frequent. As the noise fluctuates, it crosses the center a lot more than it does on either specific side. So we're doing a 17.5%, but that's from the center, so it's basically 17.5 times 2, so like 35% ocean. So what we're supposedly looking at there. Well, nothing is actually saved. That data is never saved, because you would still have to read it off the disk, and it's actually faster to generate it in runtime. So, and that's not where the performance hit is, to be honest. This is all done off thread, so it's not done while the game's running. You can't generate new objects in game, like buildings and stuff, off thread. That has to be done on the main thread. But all of this math stuff you can do, just say go and do it, and then a different core will go and spend 0.2 seconds doing it and say here's my results. So this actually doesn't affect in-game performance. The biggest things that are affecting in-game performance right now, I've got them written down somewhere here, is currently it's mostly turning on town buildings. Where did I wrote that down? Yeah, here we go. It's the terrain materials, which is a bit confusing to me. I want to look into that. But that's Unity, unfortunately. And then some of the town NPC spawning and some of that. I currently am not limiting that in any factor. So what we want to do is, like, say, if you've already spawned more than 3 NPCs, wait until the next frame to spawn any more, kind of stuff. Or like if you've already spawned 50 building pieces, wait a frame to continue spawning more. Because, you know, if you get into these really dense spots, sometimes it just goes boom, and it has to spend like half a second loading all of that stuff in. So we can churn that down so it says, if this is a really populated area, only do a bit of it per frame. Definitely always in the back of my head fixing that stuff. But anyway, so we're going to do, right. So it is smoother, correct. Vector 2 array, basically, if the distance from the center is so since we're going to be blending, there's no reason to worry about having a main or anything like that anymore. That was kind of a unnecessary byproduct of the old system. So basically we can just do it kind of like this. And this is going to yell at me for a second, but that's all right. I'll just get rid of you so it doesn't. Let's say if it is less than, and let's do 2.5 here, and in this case we will just set biomes 0 equals new vector 2, and for now I'm not messing with height, so we're just going to go 1 full strength, and we'll say 805, just because we're not doing height yet. So basically, if this is more than 0.5 into the ocean, it's going to be full strength, right? So else if, I guess we did want an if there actually. Now, if it's less than this, we actually want to be generating this kind of stuff here. And we're not returning. We're going to be doing biomes 0 equals new vector 2. And not the first value, but the second value is going to be 805. So this one is now going to be, we don't need the 500 stuff anymore. We'll say if we're blending towards 0, we're going to get points where everything blends to 0. So we do need to be crossing so that 0.5 and 0.5 meet up. So I guess we actually want to be calculating all the way up to plus 0.5, huh? If this is our center point, we actually want to be calculating 0.5 beneath that, up to 0.5 above that. So what is that going to be? 225? So if we are now 225 minus distance from center, we don't need all the plus stuff anymore. It's just going to be straight up division, right? So if we are on the maximum, that's going to be 0, so it's going to be 0 divided by 0 equals 0, or that divided by 0 equals 0. If we are on the maximum, it's going to be 0.225 minus 0.125, which is going to give us our 10% blending zone, and then 0.225 divided by that, we actually want this to come out to be 1. So this is our blending amount, right? So if we've come up with a complete, we're going to be at 1, and then it's going to scale all the way down to 0. So by default, it should be at 0, but we are actually going to need to be generating height. So there's going to be a third if, which is going to be 0. So we're either at 1, we're at 0, or we're somewhere in between those two with this math here that I probably got wrong, but I believe I didn't, but I probably did. But I believe I didn't, but I probably did. Now, we want to be doing that for all of them. So we've got swamp, mountain, grass, and desert. Basically, we can just copy paste this, I believe, for everybody. So if the, and this is not going to be an else anymore. This is going to be its own if. So first and foremost, the swamp, what number is swamp? Swamp is 4. So now if our x is less than what? 0.45, right? Because we've got our 0.05 blend distance. So if we're swamp's down here, right? Yeah, okay. If we are even less than the blend distance, we just go straight to full strength. I think this would actually be a little bit easier to look at. Well, we can leave that one as it is. I think this would be a little easier to focus on if we do, if this is actually greater than 0.55, in which case we'll go to 0. Yeah, because these are just handled a little different than the ocean. That's just going distance from center. This is actually trying to find its position on the map here. So else, if, else if, and then failing that, we're going to be trying to calculate here. So it's going to be a maximum of 0.55 minus x. So if we're all the way at 0.55, we're going to do minus 0.55, which is going to give us 0. So if we're all the way at the full blend, 0.55, that's going to be minus 0.45. So we're going to get 0.1. 0.1 divided by 0.1 equals 1. So we'll get full strength. So that should be good. What are you upset about, sir? Oh, right. The else here. So yeah, this is basically just going to be the same thing for all of these now. Except that mountain is number 3. And what? Mountain is going in the other direction, so it is going to be a little different. Mountain is going upwards, so if mountain is greater than 0.55, we know it's full strength. If it is less than 0.45, it's at null strength. Otherwise, And here we need to do this backwards. So math function absolute value of, I got too many parentheses there? I think I do. This case we're going to be doing x minus 0.55, right? So we're going to be, let's say we're at the maximum of 0.55 minus 0.55. No, that's not right. We wanted this to be 45. Okay. So we're at the maximum of 0.55. We're subtracting 0.45, which gives us a 0.1. So we actually don't need the absolute, I guess. What if we're at the halfway point of 0.5 minus 0.45? It's going to give us halfway blend. 0.1 divided by 0.05. 0.1 divided by 0.05 is 2. That's not what we want. Am I dividing these all backwards? Like I said, I'm not very good at math. 0.5 minus 0.45 is going to give us that. What if we do that divided by 0.1 equals 0.5? That is what we would expect in that case. Is that only for these guys? And I think we determined I don't need the absolute there. Are these guys working properly? Let me see. 0.55 minus 0.5 is that. And 0.1 divided by 0.05 is going to give us 2. Yeah, so that's backwards as well. Divided by 0.1 f. It should be 1, right? What about up here? 0.225 minus 0.175. Yeah, that's going to give us the same result, isn't it? So, you, sir, as well, need to be over here. But I think other than that, everything is fine. Yeah. Looks good. Okay. So now this is the same over here, except that we're using y and number 2. And likewise, this guy is the same down here, except we're using y and number 1. And currently the way the logic is running is we're doing these ifs. We don't actually want these anymore. We want each biome to be calculated in all cases. So we've got ocean, swamp, mountain. Let's put them in order. How about that? Sound well? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I was thinking of putting the 1 up there just because I'm kind of crazy like that, but it is nice actually doing x minus plus, y minus plus. So we'll leave, oh, didn't change this guy. Y, and y, there we go. Okay. So, should we just do a check once more on our little editor helper class there? Return biomes. So this is going to give us a vector2 array. Height is always going to be at 805. for now, we're not doing height yet, but this should give us blending now. And I'm going to have to change the way that our little editor class makes use of this data. Let's see, where are we? Chunk biome map equals, so yeah, we're just generating all 5 of those and feeding it into this position, generating now something like this. So noise tester is actually going to now want one of these, and it's just going to feed in the XZ, that's fine. And now, this is going to be a vector2 array, right, per position. So what we want to do now here is, let's call this biomes, and I've done this before, basically how procedural terrain works. Don't think I can just copy and paste it over though. Kinda can, that's how it works though, right? So we actually want to generate a color, not just feed it in there. And it's a little bit difficult, to be honest. We've got red, green, blue per color, which is only 3. So, but we've got our strength, right? So let's say we don't want to do if here anymore. We want to make a new color. Colors at our current X, Z, no, we need to do this thing here. Colors at this position equals new color, and I actually want to store a reference of that. Here equals the same thing. I think there's some way to just add another equal here and like do that, but I don't care, honestly. So we're now going to do here dot red equals biomes I want to go through each of the biomes and move the color in the direction of that biome based on its strength, is what I'm trying to do. So do I want to do a for loop? I guess. A little counterintuitive, but let's say for int I equals 0, I equals less than 5, I plus plus. Let's just go ahead and say, well, let's do a switch. Why not? Switch I case 0. So in the case of ocean, we're going to say color, or what is it here, equals, can I do plus equals to colors? I'm not actually sure. Let's try. I'm going to do plus equals new color, and actually let's just go ahead and do color dot cyan for now, and then we'll do times biomes I dot X. So just our biome strength followed by a break. Does that make sense? So I'm going to move our color towards cyan based on the strength. Then I'm going to do that for each of the colors. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's see, 1 is going to be yellow. 2 is going to be green. Red. And cyan. Whoops. Okay, so ocean is blue, actually. And then we're not going to be doing this stuff. Right, so now we've got our colors shifting. I think this should compile and we can test it out. And I don't know if art's still there. But I can show him the... Yeah, he's still there. The island setting. I did turn the noise down, or the frequency down, so it's should be... Oh, it's freaking out. Did I break it? What did I do? I ruined it. Divided by 0. It's actually capable of thank you. Yeah, there's some math in here. I think I broke it. No, it worked, but it had a problem. Oh, I put that debug in there. Okay, yeah. It is debugging properly, so we can get rid of that debug. Where did I do that? Get biome. Those debugs take up time. But it actually did not look like it generated properly. Playing Magic Legends beta. Oh, yeah, I want to try that. Magic Legends. I've actually been playing Magic the Gathering kind of off and on, sort of before I go to bed at night sometimes. Because, you do your daily quests and you get some cards. Open beta now live. Yeah. Is it MMO? Create an ARC account. Do I not have an ARC account? ARC Games is part of Perfect World Entertainment. Sure don't like making new accounts for games. I shouldn't show my email probably. Let me see if I have ARC. I don't think I have an ARC account. D&D Beyond Team. What is that? That's not what I'm talking about. Frank, Cybernetter, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I have an ARC account. I guess it'll yell at me if I do. It's too linear, huh? Yeah. Create an ARC account. Well, I'll do that later, I guess. I do want to download that and try it though. Sign in with Epic Games, huh? I can do that. And then I sign in with Epic Games with my Google account. Yeah, that worked. It's been sent to your email address. I'm logging into ARC via Epic via Google. Wrap your head around that. A buddy of mine was mentioning that here the other day. Two-factor sign-in. Continue. Yeah, you're allowed to do that. Art distracting me here. Why do I have to fill out and confirm my information when I'm using my Epic account? That's weird. Few too many steps to get this going, to be honest. Oh, I downloaded it twice, looks like. Whatever. Get that installed. It's probably got to download 700 gigabytes. Really hope it makes a subfolder in there automatically. They don't always. Anyway, yeah, it's a bummer people don't experiment more with MMOs. There's some really cool ones, on the horizon. But a lot of the MMOs out there are really lackluster. They're just kind of the same old, same old. I try to get into World of Warcraft every once in a while, but it's just boring as crap. They got so many quests. You just go and do this. You go and you do that. You go and you do this. You just walk through the bad guys. There's no challenge. And then you get into like the raids and everybody's serious and ugh. So why am I signing into this again? I'm really confused how they've tried to set this up. I'm not going to mess around with this anymore if you keep making me. Yeah, whatever. I'll do that later. Should have been a lot easier than that. So let's do our redraw. Destroy may not be called from edit mode. Interesting. All right. We were doing it earlier, but I guess it doesn't want to now. Destroy immediate. We were doing that earlier. I don't know why it wouldn't work now. Did I call it noiser tester? Whatever. It's not generating though, yeah. So what's going on here? Here plus equals color blue. For int I, switch I, case here plus equals. Let's get a debug. Again, this is gonna freak it out, but let's just grab one. Let's do like if z is equal to 10 and x is equal to 10, so it doesn't give me 1 for every 70,000 or whatever this is. Debug log here dot to string. This should tell me the color that's being put in there. Why is this not firing though? I equals 0, I equals less than 5. We're grabbing the biome map, get biome chunk data 2. Let's go ahead and add a bunch of these. I guess I only need one. Let's just look at ocean. Let's say debug log biomes I.x, so that'll give me the strength. Yeah, we played beta, or my buddies still play Magic. I never really got into anything that requires spending money to that scale. But I do love playing Magic. I just, like I say, I don't like spending hundreds of dollars to be able to play it properly. And that's how the online game is too, unfortunately. I've got a really good deck that I win like 4 out of 5 fights with it, but then like some people, there's just like every card they put down is legendary or mythic or legendary or mythic, you know, because they've spent hundreds of dollars or thousands of hours in the game, and just their stuff's just better than yours. So it's kind of a bummer. But okay, I see what's going on here. We need to be multiplying this stuff. Well, we're only getting tiny numbers. How come it, let's see, here dot to string, that's supposed to be a color, right? Why are you don't know how to debug or to string? Oh no, that's this guy. Yeah, so he's just way too low. His numbers are super tiny. We did end up only getting ocean. I kind of want to see what biome are we. There should be something triggering here properly at 1010, whatever it is. And our strength is going to be 0 to 1. And blue is going to be 0, 0, 1, 1. So it should just multiply those values by the strength and then add our currently 0 values to that. And he's actually getting up to 2. So that's not, we can't just do plus. Let's see, we need to do, I have to do RGB for all of these. Here dot I think I need to generate a total, don't I? Yeah. We need to have a float called total strength, which starts at 0 because you can actually go above one, right? Total strength plus equals that value. For all of these. Am I just not feeding that bit? Oh, it's a struct. Oh, well, there you go. That'll do that. So after we generate it, we need to feed it back and say that this equals here. You can't pass it as a reference like that, I don't think. Anyway. And then before we do that, we're going to want to do here divide equals total strength. I think that should work. Let's try that. So we should find something should be 1 in any position, right? Or no, I guess the total should always be at or above 1. In the event that we are in between, oh, and I guess we need to subtract ocean from this stuff, don't we? We're currently not doing that. But it's blended now anyway. So stuff is blending together. Yeah, but ocean is not working like it's supposed to. So, spotted that just before I even proved it. Basically, these guys are just generating themselves independent of ocean, and then ocean is doing its own thing. So they're not blending between ocean and one another. Maybe we should do ocean last. Yeah, like I said, this is probably better at the back end. So how can we rewrite this? If it's less than that, otherwise if it's greater than that, you're going to be 0. Otherwise we know you're somewhere in between here. And in the case of it being in this case, we don't need to generate any of this stuff, is what I'm getting at here. If we are full on ocean, there's no, that's going to overpower and delete all of this. So this all needs to exist within an else of that. So if this logic fires, the rest of this is just 0, right? Now, the question comes, are we blending? Ocean blending. So let's say if our distance from center is like that, then we don't have to worry about blending. Otherwise, we are going to be blending, which means that we want to what? I think we want to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4 and divide them by something like this, you know what I mean? So we're going to generate that guy first. Let's say biomes number 1, which is desert. He's now gonna, can we just do it like a divide equals biomes 0. Let's see. Math again, my arch nemesis. Biomes 1 divide equals, because we're working with decimals here, so it's actually going to get bigger if I just do it like that. I guess I should just be doing times equals 1 minus this guy. So if he is actually at full blend, we're going to move him down a notch. 1 minus 1 would be 0. If he's at 90%, it'd be 1 minus 0.9. So we'd only be having 10% of this guy, right? So that's in the right direction. I think that I can just do that for everybody. He's a vector 2 though, so I want the x, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that is really all we need. And since we're dividing by the total strength here, in the weird case that something ends up being less than a total strength of 1, we would still be multiplying those. This would cause them to average up towards 1. And then the problem comes if you get things that are all 0.33, 0.33, and 0.33. Nothing ever actually gets to 0.4, which is what I currently have all of the spawn settings set at. So a biome has to be at least 0.4 strong for something to spawn inside of it. I could just change all of those to be like 0.32 or 0.33. Is it possible for 4 biomes to touch? No, it is not. Let's compile this and look at how the blending's working now in any case. Previously, I would, after generating this data, I would look through and find if there was anything that was, if there wasn't at least one that was at 0.4. And what was the strongest. So whatever the strongest was, if it's not at 0.4, I would just bump it up to 0.41, I think it was, to make sure that there was always at least something at 0.41. And that's probably what I'll end up doing again. So now we can see the ocean is working a lot better. Things are blending into one another. Again, these colors are quite different than they were before. What are we doing here? We've got yellow and green, but they're not full yellow, is that? Why is that not full? I mean, that doesn't look like full green, right? It should be bright green. Cyan looks like bright cyan. This looks like gray almost. What is that? Red, green. We've got yellow, green, and cyan. So this is yellow and green, I guess, but they're blending together kind of funkily there. Okay, so at our 1010 position here, we're debugging all of these. Again, this is ocean. I've forgotten this so many times today. Going backwards. Ocean, desert, grass, mountain, swamp. So we've got ocean, desert, grass, mountain, swamp. Yeah, I can remember that by the colors now. And this is debugging as at 1010, so it should be like right here or something, you know. We've got 0 ocean, 0.1 desert, so it's probably like this point right here. That's, oh, you can't even see what I'm clicking on there, can you? Can I move this? It's like right here-ish. You haven't actually been able to see that very well this whole time. My apologies for that. Would like if it would scale that up even more for me. I guess that's the full size, 256. Anyway, 1010 should be like right here, so that makes sense that we've got a little bit of desert, we've got a lot of grass, but there's also, what is this, 0, 1, 2, 3. There's a lot of mountain in there for some reason. So we've got yellow, what is this? 2 and 3 are both very strong. Green and red, which is grass and mountain. Why is that? X, Y, X, Y. Grass and mountain should be opposite of one another. Meaning, let's see, how about we get a debug going here too, so that we've got, And I have my random seed set up, so I can't go back to that seed, unfortunately. I should probably, let's add a little debug in there. Get the seed. Like that. And like I say though, we can see in our debug that green and red have blended together. Right here. I'm confused how that's possible. If we are water, we should be triggering that, but we're not at that point. So that means we're more than... I was going to say we could put a debug in here as well to get our values. I don't think that's necessary. Let's actually change this just a little bit. Let's do randomize seed like that. We'll make seed a public variable. Not public, but serialized. Seed equals 0 and public void randomize seed, which will do this. Now we don't need the debug, so that'll give us a random seed each time if we want it. Otherwise we can keep looking at, you know, if we find something that's got something interesting on it, we can dive into it without it resetting it every time we click the button. So I'm going to get a random seed. Oh, that didn't work. What? Oh, it's to be like that, not scoped to that method specifically. If you put an int before it there, that's going to create a new variable called seed. We want to be using the class variable seed there. So I'm going to randomize, redraw, and let's take a peek at that. Now once again, we've got 100% strength on our, looks like desert. Let's go ahead and print those out. Debug log, let's say what? Ocean. This is going to be desert. This is going to be grass. Red is our mountains. And cyan is our swamp. So I think we've got desert and mountains. Nope, desert and swamp are both at 100% somehow. Desert and swamp are opposing one another though. So I'm confused how that is possible. You know what? Yeah, I know what it is. Hold on. Let's just look at our noise here. We got rid of those previous... Yeah, see, we're just, we're only looking at X. Yeah, we need to bring back those, let's see, swamp and mountain are left side of the X, right? I'm only actually looking at one variable here. I need to be looking at, well, okay, let's just do it like this. Let's say swamp, I'm currently looking at, yeah, that's just not enough. Hold on. We need to be blending in both directions. So if x is less than 4.5 and y is also less than, right? Swamp's in the bottom left there. So y is also less than 0.45f. Only then are you 100%. If x is greater than that and y is greater than 0.55, then we know you are 0. Otherwise, we need to blend you based on 2 factors, not just the x. So how do we do that? Let's see. We want to have a float for our x multiplier, our x blend. And we want another one for our y blend, I guess. Do I need to make variables for that, or can I just toss it in here? I think I need to have them separate. Let's do a float x multi equals, which is what this guy is. And then we're going to have a y multi, which is now going to be this guy. So he's the same in both cases for this guy because he's in the bottom left. So, right, xy, if he's, yeah, that works, right? And then this is what? X multi plus y multi divided by 2? Or do I want the maximum, maybe? In any case, yeah, I think I just want the maximum, because if we're anywhere near this corner, the ocean's going to be already overriding it. So, if we're like, Yeah, I guess we just want the maximum, because there should only ever be one of them triggering. But this could trigger all the way over here if we're not taking into account this guy as well. That's our problem. I think this is actually an OR, isn't it? So if we've gone too far, let's see, if we're less and we're less, we're fine. If we've gone over or we've gone over, we've got a problem. Failing that, we can take whatever the maximum of these two is. But we could be trying to blend. Well, failing that, we know we're somewhere within this quadrant. And if these are butting heads, we know the ocean's going to override it, so it doesn't matter. But say this guy, yeah, because this multi would produce 1. Even anywhere that's not on this border, our x multi would always be at 100% for this whole area. So we wouldn't want to use max because we'd be trying to blend northward here, but we'd still be getting an x. So I think we need to do if x equals greater than y kind of thing. So let's do float blend equals 0. And let's see, so if x, we're looking at a, like if we've got a line right here, and we find that x is greater than y, that means we're in this part, so we can go ahead and use the x blend, right? So blend equals our x. Otherwise, we can assume that y is bigger and go ahead and use our y blend value like this. I think that's correct. So what we need to do is set that up for the rest of these. Mountain is in the upper left, so if x is greater than 0.55 and x, or what, y, that's not right, is it? I thought I set these up funky, the way that those blendings were working. Mountain is y and low x. I'm just going to, it doesn't matter in any direction, but just to follow my little thing that I set up here, because I did want to have mountain opposite, or I wanted to have swamp and desert opposite one another, so that swamp and desert don't blend into one another, is my logic there, right? So, if for the case of mountain, we want x to be less than 555, just kidding, 45, and we want y to be greater than 0.55. In that case, he's 100%. If x is greater than 0.55, meaning we've gone to the right, or y is less than 0.45, meaning the bottom, then we know that he is at 0. Failing that, we want to calculate our blend, and this is going to be number 3 before I forget about it. If x, we don't want it going this way now, we want it going this way. So what is that? If y is greater than x plus 0.05, where's a math degree when you need it? If x is greater, if y is greater than x plus 0.5, does that make sense? If we're over here, our y is going to be at 1, and our x plus 0.5 is going to be, that's still just going to be moving in this direction, isn't it? X plus 0.5, we're going to start at 0.5, and x is just going to go up here. We want to go like this. How come I'm too stupid to figure that out? That sounds like a really easy problem. Y plus, let's see, if y, we want y to be, y can be what it is. Let's see, y, yeah, we can leave y alone, and then x is actually going to be 1 minus x, right? That's all that we're doing here. 1 minus x. That was a lot harder than it should have been. If y, so at here we're going to be at 1, and then x is going to be nearing 0.5 coming from 1. So yeah, that should work. So if y is greater than 1x, then we want to blend towards desert, which means we will be using our x blend, which is the same as swamp, so that's fine. But in this case, our else case is going to be going down, so we're going to be using our y blend, but we're going to be doing, this needs to be 0.45 minus y. Or is it the other way around? Y minus 0.45. You can tell it's noon, it's lunch, my brain's missing out on the sugars. My math is slowing down. Point. I don't like math. If we're blending here, that means that our y could be, let's say the minimum would be at 0.55. So if we do 0.45 minus 0.55, we're going to end up with a negative 0.1. So I want to do that backwards. I want to do 0.55 minus 0.45. That would give me 100%, which is what I want. So in the other extreme, let's say we are at the minimum blending distance of 0.45 minus 0.45. That would give us 0. Sounds good. Just to double check, 0.55 our maximum value. Well, let's try it. Let's try the mid-range. 0.5 minus 0.45 divided by 0.1 is going to give us 50%, right? So 0.55 minus 0.45 divided by 0.1 is going to give us 100%. Okay, so that works as expected, supposedly. Moving on to grass. Grass is in the lower right. So if y is less than 4.5 and x is greater than 0.55, then we know we're at 100%. If y is greater than, kind of like to keep these all x, y positive, but whatever. If y is greater than 0.55 or x equals less than 0.45f, then we know we're at 0. If we need to blend, and this is number 2. If y equals, let's see, yeah, we're doing one of these again. So if y is less than 1 minus x, is that ever possible? If y is at 0.4 and 1 minus x is at here, then we want to use our y blend. Over here would be, let's say 1 minus x, so this would be like 0.6, and then our y would be at, yeah, you'd have to be at 0.5. Let's see, this guy's at, x would be at 0.6, right? 1 minus x. So this would be 0.4. Okay, so if y is at 5 when we're at 0.4, that means we want to go the y blend. So that's correct, right? Y is greater than 1 minus x. In that case, we want to do y minus, so this one wants to go back to the first one, I believe. 0.55 minus y. Let's try those numbers again just to be sure. If, for example, we are at our maximum, we would come up with 0. So that is correct. If we were at our minimum, 0.55 minus 0.45, we would get 100%. So that is correct. Likewise with our x blend, no, this one is going to be backwards. So x minus 0.45. So if 0. You can't even see my calculator, can you? 0. For example, our 100% case would be 5.5 minus 0.45. That'll give us 100%. Our 0% case would be 0.45 minus 0.45, so that should be fine. What is the problem here? What's going on? Cannot convert. Yeah, that needs to be an F. And last but not least, desert. Desert is in the top right, so y needs to be greater than that, and x also needs to be greater than that to be 100%. If y is less than that, or x is less than 0.45, then we know it's at 0%. If, however, we need to blend, should we use this guy? Let's see. If our x is greater than our y, if our x is greater than our y, we're over here. That means we want to do our upside down y blend. Where I think these are all backwards in this case. Y minus 0.45, and it should be one of each, you know, in total in all of this logic. So let's just test them real quick. If our y blending into grass is at its maximum, which should be 100%, 0.55 minus 0.45, that's correct. If we're going into the mountains and we're at our maximum of 0.55, again, it's going to be the same thing. 55 minus 0.5. Okay, so I think that all works properly. This is, however, is that fine at number 4? What do we got? Grass is number 4. You are number 1. Okay, and then the oceanal blend. Let's go ahead and compile that. Take a peek. Our colors should be correct now, I believe. It's compiling, even though Unity doesn't want to show. All right. We'll keep the same seed, and I'll just do a redraw. There we go. So now we've got our vibrant colors, but they are also blending together. So we've got ocean, we've got grass, we've got desert, we've got mountain, and we've got swamp. And mountain and grass don't ever touch. Desert and swamp don't ever touch. So if we get a new seed, let's get a new seed, take a peek, like this. Art, you want to see what the island setting looks like? Let's turn this down to 0.2, and I will, so I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and I'm going to turn on this. So if true, we're actually going to so I'm going to use the same seed, but I'm going to zoom out 50%, and I'm going to apply the archipelago. I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong. Who uses that word in real life? You can see it generates. Grass and desert are always together, and mountain and swamp are always together. And then in between them is always water. So if we get a new seed, you look at it like this. There's big chunks of swamp and mountain, grass and desert, but there's always water in between them. So it's just kind of a, I think it's a cool option to have. Because the water's nice, you know, it's pretty. It looks cool when you're up top of a mountain and there's water cutting across these little islands of, I say little, we're at 50% zoom here, so this would be a 16-kilometer chunk. So this would still be pretty big. The final kind of question remaining here is if our blend is enough, because when we're generating heights and we're blending from swamp, swamp is always just about sea level, right? But the mountain noise can go up to snow peaks. So if it wants to be at a snow peak, like right on the edge of the swamp here, it has to blend really sharp to get up to that snow peak. And, you know, sometimes that creates a nice effect, honestly. So we'll leave it as is now. I can always turn that up. It's just a variable. And we could let players adjust that too in their world settings, because it'll all be visible on the preview camera when it's working. World creation preview bit, but I'm going to go ahead and leave that off for now. Planning to make that a setting in any case. So, and let's zoom back out before I forget about it. That is up here, back down to 0.01 frequency. Now, that was good just for our little preview script that we wrote there. It's lunchtime, but I'm fine doing this for another half hour to an hour, whatever. I am hungry, but not a big deal. I think I'm going to make a spicy ham and egg sandwich. It sounds pretty good. Hope my wife has something she wants to eat, because she doesn't really like those sandwiches. So a next step would be to, let's see, I do want to make sure that there is at least 0.4 at any position. So let's say I've gone through and generated all of these. We're going through per point, going through all the biomes. So let's say float top strength equals 0. And let's do an int top biome equals 0. And let's say we don't need these debugs anymore. That's all working as intended. But we do want to do, let's say if, yeah, and I want to actually just grab this once rather than reaching into the array 3 times. So let's grab it. We'll do strength like that, and here as well. And then let's say if strength is greater than top strength, then we want to set the top strength to be equal to strength, and we want the top biome to be equal to 0, which it already would be by default, but you know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna, we can actually just write this out here, right? And we will change all of these to be interesting. We can change all of these to be strength as well. And we can actually put this at the end of all of this, can't we? So if the strength doesn't even need to be at the end, we can put it at the front. If the strength that we've grabbed is, yeah, we don't know what the, yeah, top biome equals I. There we go. Yeah, so that's fine. Let's just compact this up a little more. So now that I've gathered that, I want to go ahead and say, here divided equal total strength. I think I want to do it after that. I just want to make sure. Can you terraform water to make land bridges? You can terraform land underwater, if that's what you mean. I believe. I might have actually added something in there that doesn't let you do that. I could certainly turn that off, though, if that's the case. See no reason why you shouldn't be able to, honestly. That would be quite the endeavor, though. Probably rather want to build a bridge. Like a wood bridge. But let's see. If I'm dividing by the total strength, I'm going to want to... Yeah, I think I'm actually going to want to have to do this after I divide by the total strength, aren't I? So... I'm actually going to want to move this down here. Total strength, top biome, that all comes down here. And we're going to have to do our loop just once more. Equals 0, I equals less than 5, I plus plus. If, and then yeah, we want to get the strength once more. Strength equals that. If the strength is greater than the top strength, we want it to set it to that and that and that. And then if, after all of that, our top strength is less than 0.41, we want to go to biomes at top biome, and we want to set its x to equal 0.41. So there's always at least something that is at least 0.41. That just ensures that we don't get those bald patches. Like when things sort of do their tri-convergence and you get these weird dead zones, that ensures that we don't get that. So, that's all good and well for the biomes. That should all be working as intended. Now, the only problem is actually generating the height, because swamp and mountain do not use the same height, for example. So, there's a nice little shallow bridge there. Beauty of noise, definitely fun stuff to be working with. You know, and I set this up to be the 4 octaves we've got going on here. Persistence, lunacrity, you know, there's these different settings for the noise that we could also let players mess with that too. You know, if you change this, the noise shrinks down to be much more rapid. Or if you turn it up. If you turn it down even further, it stretches it out, so you'd get longer swaths of mountains or whatever. This is an 8-kilometer chunk that we're looking at, so that's just kind of how it might even be a little too big. We might zoom it out a little more, but we'll see how it looks in game. So first of all, we want to do height. Currently, we are just assigning everything to be 805. Basically, if we're at 0, we don't care. Otherwise, we're going to want to get swamp height, for example. And I've actually got all of these set up. Let's see if I can look at it so you can see it. I've got biome prefabs set up somewhere. Where are those actually? Decorations, herbs, trees, world encounters. There we are, procedural biomes. So, you can see that, right? It's got a noise curve. Noise, frequency, amplitude, persistence, octaves, frequency. Mountain's got a lot more octaves than the rest. Maybe I should go ahead and use these. Not a real problem. Let's see, for our test, we actually don't care about the height in our little noise guy. We can close him down. I'll leave him open, but we're done with him. Our noise manager, let's go ahead and, let's see, he is on our procedural watcher, I believe. Oops, did I click on that right? Yeah, I did. Noise manager, he's null by default. He is public, but I'm generating him in runtime. So we're going to have to put it on here. Let's see, where do we get the procedural biomes? So that's probably already stored on procedural prefabs. Up at the top here, I assume. Biomes. I had them somewhere. List procedural biomes. We got way too much stuff open here. Map UI, we'll get back to you in a minute. Procedural terrain, global methods, procedural area, noise manager, noise tester. We'll leave you open for the moment. This guy was accessing that stuff somewhere here. Get biome, get height. Wasn't it get height? Get height, procedural biome, biomes. Yeah, I'm passing those in the original setup here. Procedural biomes. Who calls this? Procedural start UI. Oh no, that's for that. Yeah, procedural watcher calls it. Passing in the procedural biomes, which is literally just a list of the biomes. Okay. So that is on the watcher already. We are going to want to pass that in just the same, actually, for setup number 2 now. We're not going to be using the seed anymore. This is actually going to be 100% the same. We're going to be using the terrain data seed, and we do want to be setting all that up, so let's just get rid of that completely. And we will not be able to do this anymore, but that was just for testing. So I'll go ahead and just say debug log not set up and return. Unreachable code detected. Can I do like an if true to stop that? Or is it too smart for that? Yeah, it's too smart for that. I just have to comment it out is all really, but whoa, my speakers are just way too high. Got me jumping. What was that? Also, who is also? Someone asking a question about multiplayer network programming. I'll get to you in a moment there, sir. I don't think he's watching the stream, just asking me a question. So yeah, we're done with you, sir. And you are going to be set up as normal. And now we're going to be using get height. So same method actually. Get height x, z, and we're going to give it a biome. So not a problem. Let's see, we've got our X, we've got our Y, these are world values. If we're at 100% here, we're going to do get height, X, Y, and this is going to be ocean. Simple as that. Oh, never mind. What do we got? This is a float. Get biome. Well, that's fine. We can pass in the world values. We're doing that up here. In this guy, we've got our world X, our world Z. We're only using it here. We're using that to do that. So we'll also pass in the world X and the world Z as well. And we will use them. Oh, get biome. What? Wait. No, yeah, went back up there. No. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing int world X, int world Z. And this will be using world X, world Z. There we go. So, get height. Actually, it doesn't matter for it's 0. So I'm just going to put 0 there. That'll save a little bit of performance. This is swamp. And this is also swamp. I'm going to just go through and set all the zeros up real quick. 0. This is mountain. This is mountain. Oops. Come on. Oh, I deleted the whole thing there. Get height, mountain. There we go. Grass. Grass. Desert. So there's some dude that really kind of threw a fit. Last time I changed some stuff like this, because, you know, it will have to do a world reset. Not a reset, you know, it just has to reposition the buildings because the noise is going to change, so all the biomes are going to be totally different now. And it just, you know, it's just a bummer when you're a developer and people yell at you for stuff because, you know, you got to do it. You got to make the game better. And that means changes, and that means wipes sometimes. So it's just a bummer, you know, I feel bad. I wish people would be nice. But not everybody is. So this is going to give us, we're generating it a little bit different now. So our chunk biome map is now a jagged array. We're currently not feeding in this properly. So we actually want to be grabbing the procedural chunk like so. We'll just call it chunk, I guess. And we want our cancellation token called token. So these guys are actually generated not generated, they're accessible via the chunk. Chunk.chunkx, like so. And we also want to have this guy to break out of it in the event of a cancellation request. It's just called token. There we go. So we should be able to call this as normal now. Right, chunk biome data, blah blah blah. We don't need any of that anymore. So just the guy that makes use of this, which is the procedural chunk guy, He's not going to be doing that anymore. He's going to be calling a vector2 jagged array array. And did I call that number 2? Let's go ahead and not call him number 2 anymore. Like this. This call is ambiguous. That's true. They are the same, but we are not going to be using this anymore in any case. So I'm just going to turn it off for the moment. We'll delete it here in a bit after we've confirmed we don't need it anymore. Now, for each is not what we want to do. Random events, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out later. Like I say, I don't even know how I made an account with it. Somehow I had logged in with my Google account to Epic to log into it. So it should just be my Google password. Is what I was trying to input there. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Well, I've got really good download speed. It should only take a bit. Like I say, I just kind of didn't want to Magic Legends Arc setup. Did I get a desktop? We're done with you. Done with you. Minimize you. Magic Legends. Yeah. I don't really... Oh, maybe it's this one now that I think about it. Nope. Let's see if I can block this for a moment. Check out my passwords file. Would be very bad to show this to everybody. I don't even have it written down here. Just too many passwords in the world, you know. Let's see, I tried that.